You know, that feeling, right? That immediate, like, gut punch or that sinking sensation.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even just irritation or feeling suddenly pessimistic when something just doesn't go your way. Like maybe you pour hours into a project, hit some snag, and it feels like it's all falling apart.
Right. Or you try learning something new, maybe, and you just stumble again and again.
Yeah. And you get that immediate urge to just, throw your hands up and walk away.
Totally.
It's raw, it's uncomfortable, and honestly, it just feels bad. That instinct to sort of recoil from making a mistake, it's universal.
But here's the fascinating thing. That feeling, as annoying or even painful as it can be, it's actually a critical, built-in part of how your brain is designed to help you succeed.
Really? So that awful feeling isn't the enemy?
Not at all. In fact, understanding it is probably the most powerful first step towards turning every stumble into, a stepping stone. So today, we're doing a deep dive into this, into the surprisingly powerful, often uncomfortable, but ultimately invaluable role of failure in personal growth and success.
And we'll be looking at brain science, but also real stories.
Exactly. Insights from neuroscience and also compelling stories of people who turned huge failures into their biggest wins.
Right. So the mission for you listening is to get equipped with the mental tools, the actual strategies, to not just get over setbacks, but to really bounce back stronger every time.
That's the goal.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We've all felt that immediate negativity when we mess up. It's almost like visceral. But why? Why does it feel so bad? Is it just my ego kicking in, or is there something, deeper going on?
Oh, it's absolutely deeper than just ego, though. Ego definitely gets tangled up in it. Think about it evolutionarily. It feels bad because for our distant ancestors, making an error could literally mean injury or death.
Oh, okay. High stakes.
Exactly. Imagine missing that critical shot on a hunt or taking a wrong turn running from a predator. Our brains had to get really good, really fast at learning from those mistakes just for survival.
Okay, so it's a survival instinct, basically.
Pretty much. And science has actually pinpointed this incredibly rapid, almost preconscious reaction. It's called the error-related negativity, or EARN.
The EARN.
Yeah.
Sounds very scientific. You said pre-conscious, though. What exactly is happening in our heads?
It is pretty technical, yeah. But basically, the EARN is this sharp negative blip of electrical activity. It happens in a specific part of your brain, the cingulate cortex.
Cingulate cortex, okay.
Yeah, it's a major hub for executive functions, monitoring how we're doing, detecting conflicts, basically acting as our internal error detector. It's constantly comparing what we thought would happen with what actually did.
Right.
But here's the really wild part. This electrical spike happens almost instantly after an error. We're talking within about 100 milliseconds.
Whoa, 100 milliseconds. That's incredibly fast.
It is. It's before you're even consciously aware you've made a mistake. Your brain literally knows you messed up before you consciously do.
Wow. Okay, that's a genuine aha moment for me. So my brain is already firing off this warning signal, this electric jolt, before I even get the chance to think, oh no, I messed that up. It's like an automatic, super high-speed alert.
Exactly like that. A primal warning. The cingulate cortex spots that mismatch expected versus actual, and boom, sends an alert to other brain areas.
And the purpose of that alert is?
It helps immediately decrease the chances of you making that same mistake again. Think of it like your brain slamming on the brakes or, quickly rerouting your internal GPS. And studies have even linked a stronger EARN signal to, say, better performance in school. It suggests the brain is actually giving itself a tiny bit more time, a slightly slower, more careful response next time around to avoid repeating the error.
So it's literally the brain trying to self-correct, to optimize itself.
Precisely. It's learning on the fly.
That makes so much sense, like an internal coach constantly giving feedback. But what happens if that correction feels too strong, almost paralyzing? Can this natural learning thing actually become a hindrance sometimes?
That's a really important question. And yeah, there's a nuance there. While the EARN is crucial for learning, an overly strong EARN, well, that can sometimes tip over into anxiety or distractibility.
How so?
The brain can kind of overreact to the error. It gets more alarmed than maybe the situation warrants. So if your internal alarm bell is just constantly ringing too loudly, it might show up as chronic self-doubt or finding it hard to make decisions or even just avoiding new challenges altogether because that anticipated sting of failure feels too overwhelming.
Okay, I could see that.
But the good news is, research suggests things like mindfulness practice or cognitive reframing, where you actively challenge those intense negative thoughts, can actually help dial down that neural overreaction over time.
So you can train your brain.
Essentially, yes. Train it to see that error signal more as useful data, less as an existential threat.
Okay. So if our brains are basically designed to learn from mistakes, and we can even influence how intensely we feel those mistakes, then the real game isn't trying to avoid failure, because that seems impossible.
Right.
It's all about how we respond to it. Is that right? It sounds like resilience isn't just some trait you have or don't have, but it's more like a choice you make to quit or to, well, keep trying.
That's exactly it. Failure is inevitable, right? But our response is what dictates the path forward. Henry Ford famously said something like, failure is just the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently.
I like that. More intelligently.
Yeah. Or Einstein, who saw failure as success in progress. So the big question becomes, how do we consciously make that choice to keep going, especially when our sort of primal brain is screaming, retreat?
Which brings us neatly to reframing our mindset, doesn't it? Cultivating what people call a growth mindset. Seeing challenges, seeing setbacks, not as brick walls, but as opportunities to learn, to evolve. So instead of thinking, I can't do this, you shift it slightly to, I can't do this yet.
And crucially, this isn't just wishful thinking or empty positivity. It's grounded in the science of neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, the brain changing itself.
Exactly. Think of your brain like a dynamic city map. Every thought, every action, every habit you repeat, it's like paving a road, reinforcing a pathway. Neuroplasticity means your brain isn't fixed. It can physically build new roads, create new neural pathways when you deliberately think or act differently.
So you're not just stuck being bad at life or bad at a certain skill.
Not at all. You might just be using some old, well-worn, unhelpful roads. But the amazing, hopeful part is you can consciously choose to pave new ones.
Yeah.
Better ones.
Okay, how? How do we start paving those new roads?
Well, one really helpful framework comes from psychologist Martin Seligman. He talks about overcoming the 3 Ps to build emotional resilience. These help challenge those automatic negative reactions we have.
The 3 Ps. Okay, sounds like a practical toolkit. What are they?
So the first P is personalization. This is that tendency we have to automatically blame ourselves when things go wrong, to take every setback as a personal failing.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. The key is to recognize that actually setbacks often involve circumstances, external factors, maybe just bad luck. It's not always all about you being flawed. So if a project stalls, instead of, I'm incompetent, you could ask, okay, is this really just me? Or were there other things? Shifting priorities, market changes, team issues. It's about taking responsibility, sure, but not taking all the blame unfairly.
Got it. Don't make it an indictment of your entire self. What's the second P?
The second is pervasiveness. This is believing that one negative event will somehow bleed into and ruin every part of your life.
Ah, the catastrophizing.
Exactly. You have to consciously push back on that. Just because one thing went wrong at work doesn't mean your relationships are doomed, or your health is failing, or you'll never enjoy your hobbies again. It's about containing the setback to its actual area of impact. Don't let one bad meeting convince you your whole career is shot,
Right. Don't let one cloud block the entire sun. Makes sense. And the third P?
The third is permanence. This is the feeling that the bad situation, the negative feelings, they're going to last forever. That it's a permanent state of affairs.
Which feels incredibly disempowering.
Totally. So realizing that negative feelings and tough situations are temporary is vital for resilience. Things do change. You can recover. Lost a client. Doesn't mean you'll never get another. Had a terrible workout. Doesn't mean you're permanently unfit. So by actively challenging these 3 Ps, personalization, pervasiveness, permanencer, you start building a stronger, more flexible emotional foundation. You learn to move through setbacks, not get stuck in them.
Okay, so we get the brain science, why it stings. And we have the 3 Ps for the mindset shift. But I bet you, listening right now, are thinking, okay, great theory, but how do I actually do this stuff when that gut punch hits? When the urn is firing and the negative thoughts are swirling?
Right. Application time.
Exactly. This is where we shift from the why to the how by building specific, actionable habits.
Precisely. These habits are like the practical blueprint. They turn that understanding and intention into consistent actions that really make a difference when, inevitably, you face a setback. They're not magic wands, but they are concrete, repeatable steps that train your brain and you to respond more constructively.
Okay, let's dive into those habits for the bounce back. First one seems to be Embrace failure as a lesson. Evaluate, don't obsess.
Yes, this is critical. Instead of just beating yourself up or getting stuck looping on what went wrong, rumination, you need to actively, consciously ask, okay, what can I actually learn here? What data did this setback give me? What specifically would I do differently next time?
Like Thomas Edison, right, with the light bulb. He didn't see failure.
Exactly. He famously said something like, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Each attempt wasn't defeat. It was information. Data points helping him zero in on what would work.
Or Catherine Stockett, the author of The Help. Didn't she get rejected like 60 times?
That's right, 60 rejections. Before it became this massive bestseller and a huge movie, she didn't quit. She arguably used each rejection as feedback, maybe tweaked things, definitely got more determined. It's about doing a sort of post-mortem, objectively reviewing what happened, the contributing factors, the new insights gained, but crucially, without the self-blame.
So take responsibility for the lesson, not get bogged down obsessing over the mistake.
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
That evaluation mindset helps calm that overactive urn we talked about. It shifts the signal from threat, danger, to, okay, useful information. And flowing naturally from that is the second habit. Practice self-care.
Which sounds maybe a bit soft, but you're saying it's crucial.
Absolutely essential. Not a luxury. It's a necessity for mental and emotional toughness, especially when you're dealing with setbacks. You know that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup? Well, this is that. It means looking after your physical health, regular exercise, decent food, and really importantly, getting enough sleep. But it's also mental and emotional care. Consciously stepping away from problems sometimes, recharging with things you enjoy, maybe mindfulness, deep breathing, even visualizing success.
Because problems feel bigger when you're exhausted.
Undeniably. Everything feels more overwhelming, and your ability to cope just plummets when you're sleep-deprived or hungry or mentally fried. So prioritizing self-care isn't selfish. It's actually foundational for building resilience.
That really rings true. I know when I skip my morning walk, that first little snag in the day feels 10 times heavier. Okay, habit 3. Set realistic goals and stay focused on the objective.
Yeah, this is about perspective. Success, usually it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yeah.
It takes patience, persistence. Think about those giant redwood trees like Hyperion. It didn't shoot up hundreds of feet overnight.
Took centuries.
Exactly. Centuries of slow, steady, consistent growth. So failure is like a detour on that long road. It's not a dead end. When you hit one, the idea is to reevaluate your route, maybe make some adjustments, but then try again, always keeping that long-term objective in view.
And this connects to that 1% rule idea, or starting small.
It does. The concept is about building systems for progress, not just waiting for motivation to strike, because motivation is, frankly, unreliable. So, want to exercise, just do one push-up. Seriously, want to read more, read one sentence.
That sounds almost too small.
It sounds small, but the magic is in overcoming the initial resistance. Often the hardest part is just starting, that mental hurdle before you act. By making the first step ridiculously tiny, you break that barrier, you build a little momentum, and you start collecting these small wins. And those small wins add up, they compound over time into big changes, and crucially, they build your belief that you actually can do it.
Okay, I see how those tiny steps could build confidence, which leads nicely into habit 4. Build a strong support network and actually accept help.
Yes, who you surround yourself with makes a huge difference. You know the saying, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
I've heard that, yeah.
Well, there's truth to it. So choose people who are generally positive, who are uplifting, who believe in your potential to grow, not people who just drag you down or confirm your doubts. And importantly, realizing that asking for advice or mentorship or just a friendly ear, that's not weakness. It's actually wisdom. It's strength.
Because a different perspective can unlock things.
Absolutely. Or just having someone validate your feelings, offer support, remind you you're not alone. It makes a massive difference. Think about it. Nobody achieves big things completely on their own. Even historical figures like Abraham Lincoln, who faced countless business failures and political losses before becoming president, he relied heavily on the counsel and support of others.
So community matters.
That's some
shared experience.
Immensely. There are huge psychological benefits. Empathy, new ideas, just that sense of belonging, especially when things are tough.
Okay. And the 5th habit.
5th habit. Cultivate confidence and control the controllables. This is about consciously maintaining self-belief, even when things go wrong, and the evidence might feel like it's piling up against you.
How do you do that when you feel like you've just failed?
One way is instead of just dwelling on what went wrong, you actively mentally rehearse. facing difficult situations and navigating them successfully. It's not denying reality. It's building new neural pathways for competence and success through visualization. And crucially, focus your energy where it counts on the things you can actually control, like your attitude, your effort, your response to things you can't control. So, for instance, you can't control how a colleague might react if you make a mistake. But you absolutely can control how you respond to their reaction and what steps you take to learn from the mistake and prevent it next time.
Ah, okay. Focus on your sphere of influence.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Think about Michael Jordan, legendary player, right? But he famously talked about all the shots he missed, the games he lost, the game-winning shots he was trusted with and missed. He said something like, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed."
Wow. So the failures weren't obstacles, they were the fuel.
Exactly. His rejections, his setbacks, they drove him. And every time you face a challenge and get through it, you build that resilience muscle, and your confidence in your own ability to handle things inevitably grows.
It really seems like all these habits tie into this idea of failing forward, doesn't it?
That's a great way to put it. It's about taking risks, trying things, experimenting, and seeing failures not as endpoints, but as necessary, maybe even beautiful parts of the learning process.
And it helps to remember you're in good company, right? So many successful people faced massive setbacks.
Absolutely. Think of Steve Jobs fired from Apple, the company he started, only to come back years later and lead it to become, well, Apple.
Right. Or Walt Disney apparently fired from a newspaper job early on for lacking imagination.
Can you imagine? Or Stephen King, struggling with poverty, addiction, getting rejection after rejection for his writing. His wife literally fished the manuscript for Carrie out of the trash.
No way.
Yeah. What united them and so many others was perseverance. They learned, they adapted, but they never lost sight of their why, their core purpose. That was crucial.
And it connects back to the brain development too, doesn't it? You mentioned the cingulate cortex, the error processing part, keeps developing into our late 20s.
That's right. Which is quite a long time, really. And it's a great parallel for our own growth journey.
How so?
It highlights that learning from mistakes isn't like flipping a switch. It's not a one-time event. It's a lifelong process, a continuous opportunity to evolve and get better at handling challenges, no matter how old you are. Our brains are literally built to keep improving at learning from failure.
So wrapping this deep dive up, the main takeaway seems pretty clear. Failure.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable. Yeah. Often uncomfortable, definitely. But ultimately, it's an incredibly valuable teacher.
Couldn't agree more.
It's not really about trying to dodge failure because you can and maybe shouldn't want to, but it's all about building those habits, cultivating that mindset so you can respond intelligently, extract the lessons, and consistently come out the other side stronger, more capable, more resilient.
It really boils down to consistency in applying these ideas and having that fundamental belief in your own ability to grow. And just deeply understanding that every setback, every error, every little ping from your brain's urn, it's just data. It's powerful, actionable information.
Information you can use to recalibrate, adjust your course.
And keep moving towards what matters to you. So embrace the whole journey, including those inevitable bumps in the road.
So for you listening, given that your brain is literally hardwired to learn from mistakes and that every single stumble is just data waiting to be analyzed, what tiny, maybe imperfect step will you take today to embrace your next failure, not as an ending, but as a stepping stone?